They released their planet killers. Humans called them practice targets. The emergency broadcast cut through the pre-dawn silence like a knife. Admiral Zhang Wei jolted awake, her military training kicking in before her mind fully cleared the fog of sleep. Sweat beaded on her forehead as the message boomed through every speaker and screen in her quarters, the harsh red emergency lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. Attention, Earth. Submit to Council authority or face immediate extinction. She sprinted to the command center, her bare feet slapping against cold metal floors, not even bothering with shoes. Officers rushed past in various states of dress, shouting updates as alarms wailed throughout the base. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL, at least 20 of them. They're bigger than anything we've ever seen, each one's the size of a small moon. Energy readings are off the charts. Our sensors can barely handle it. The main display lit up with an alien face, all angles and crystalline features like a living diamond. High Observer Kaziz Extal's voice crackled through the speakers, each word dripping with cold authority. Species 2749 has exceeded acceptable development parameters. Containment protocols are now in effect. Another transmission cut in, this one from Council Envoy Tarapni, whose serpentine form filled the screen with gleaming scales. Your species represents an unacceptable risk. Submit to sterilization or face extinction. You have 1 Earth hour to decide. But humanity's response wasn't fear, it was defiance. Every media channel began broadcasting clips from old science fiction shows and movies. Independence Day, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek. Stories of humanity facing impossible odds and winning. Someone had even started playing We Will Rock You over the emergency channels. Admiral Zhang Wei stood before the tactical display, watching the massive hologram of the nearest planet killer vessel. Its hull stretched for kilometers, bristling with weapons that could crack Earth like an egg. Her jaw set with determination as her fingers flew over the controls, already mapping out battle plans. Her eyes narrowed as she said, "We've prepared for this moment our entire lives. Let's see if they're as tough as they look. Sound general quarters, all ships to battle stations." As the alarms continued to wail, Admiral Zhang Wei clenched her fists, her mind racing. Humanity's defiance had begun. But defiance alone wasn't enough. They needed a plan, a strategy, and most importantly, a way to turn these invincible planet killers into targets. And that plan was already in motion. Commander Stone's voice cut through the tense atmosphere of the command center. "Admiral, boarding teams are ready. Permission to execute Operation David. All teams report full combat readiness." Admiral Zhang Wei nodded, memories flooding back. Just 6 months ago, she'd stood before the Earth Defense Council, pleading for more funding. Her detailed reports and simulations had fallen on deaf ears. Planet killers? Senator Brooks had laughed, leaning back in his plush chair. "Admiral, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this sounds like science fiction." The other politicians had joined in, dismissing her proposals as wasteful paranoia. Some had even suggested cutting the defense budget further. Now those same senators crowded her comm screen, faces pale with fear, their expensive suits wrinkled from hours in emergency bunkers. "Admiral Zhang Wei," Brooks stammered, sweat visible on his forehead. "We need your help. What's the defense plan?" "The one you called impossible," she replied, keeping her voice level. "The one we implemented anyway. The one my teams have been drilling for months." In the ship bay, Commander Stone addressed his team, their armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "Remember those drills everyone complained about? The ones they called crazy?" He checked his gear while speaking, making sure each weapon was secure. "Well, today they're going to save lives. And I bet some of you are glad we ran them 50 times instead of 5. The soldiers nodded grimly. They'd run these scenarios countless times, even if others had mocked the planet killer readiness drills as military excess. Each person knew their role by heart. Dr. Talia Addison's fingers flew across her console as she contacted her research team. "Convert all orbital platforms to defense mode," she ordered, her voice steady despite the stakes. Upload the modifications we tested last month. Yes, the ones for the mining lasers too. And get those gravity tugs online. We'll need them all. Double-check the power couplings. In orbit, High Observer Kazakhstal watched Earth's response with growing bewilderment. His latest report reflected his confusion. Species 2749 displays unusual calm in face of extinction. No panic, no chaos. Their behavior suggests preparation. Most concerning is their coordinated response. Envoy Tarapny's angry transmission interrupted Kazakhstal's observations. Your species courts destruction, the envoy hissed at Earth's leaders, mandibles clicking in rage. Your reckless defiance will be your undoing. Submit now or face annihilation. The first attack came without warning. Brilliant energy beams lanced from the nearest planet killer, turning the lunar surface to glass. Inside his dropship, Commander Stone gripped his harness tightly, watching the destruction through the view screen. Ready countermeasures, he ordered, his training taking over. Just like we practiced. Remember your zones and stick to the plan. The first strike had been launched, but this war would not be won in a single battle. While Earth's leaders scrambled to coordinate their defenses, Commander Stone and his team prepared for their next move. They weren't just soldiers anymore. They were humanity's best chance at proving the enemy wasn't as invincible as they thought. Commander Stone's stomach lurched as the dropship spun through space, warning lights flashing red across the cockpit. The G-forces pulled at his face as they tumbled. Cut engines, he ordered, gripping his armrest. Let momentum carry us. The ship went dark and silent, drifting like harmless space debris toward the moon's cratered surface. Stone's team hung tight in their harnesses, their faces illuminated by the distant flashes of energy weapons. A few of them traded knowing glances, their training keeping them calm despite the danger. Remember the plan? Stone said quietly, his voice steady and firm. We're not here to destroy it. We just need to test their armor. Every bit of data counts. The dropship glided into the shadow of Tycho crater, using the moon's thin atmosphere to slow their descent. Through the viewport, Stone watched the massive planet killer floating above them like a metal mountain. Its dark hull blocked out the stars, making it look like a hole torn in space itself. Now! Stone commanded. His team launched their modified plasma torpedoes, mining charges rebuilt with Dr. Addison's specs. The weapons streaked upward in perfect formation, their paths disguised by the crater's dark shadow. The familiar smell of ozone filled the cabin as the launchers cooled down. Aboard the Council flagship, Envoy Tarapny sneered at the tactical display, his scaled face twisting with contempt. Look at their primitive weapons, he said to Kazakhstal, mandibles clicking. Like children throwing rocks at a fortress, they waste our time with these games. But Kazakhstal remained silent, studying the human attack pattern with growing unease. Each explosion, while small, targeted different sections of the planet killer's hull. The humans weren't attacking randomly. They were gathering data, methodically testing each layer of defense. Most curious, Kazakhstal noted in his log, his fingers moving quickly across the holographic interface. They appear to be conducting weapons tests rather than mounting a true assault. Their methodical approach suggests extensive prior planning. These humans continue to defy expectations. Back on Earth, Dr. Addison worked frantically in her lab, surrounded by disassembled construction drones. Tools and parts covered every surface as her team worked. The magnetic grapples are perfect for this, she told Captain Delgado over the comm, excitement clear in her voice. We can use them to attach to their hull undetected. The alien metals react just like we hoped. How many can you convert? Delgado asked, hope creeping into her voice. With my team working round the clock, at least 50 by tomorrow. Maybe more if the assembly line holds up, Addison replied, already reaching for another drone. On screens worldwide, media channels broadcast clips from old movies showing humanity triumphing over similar threats. We've trained for this, trended globally as people shared their favorite scenes, turning fear into determination. Memes and movie quotes became rallying cries. Stone watched with satisfaction as one of his plasma torpedoes struck home. A small section of the planet killer's supposedly impenetrable armor buckled and blackened, leaving a smoking crater in its wake. Tarapni's outraged voice boomed across all frequencies, making the speakers crackle. Impossible! No species has ever— Correction, Kazakhstal interrupted, his voice trembling slightly with what might have been fear or admiration. No species has ever been prepared for us before. These humans, they knew we were coming. As the dust settled from the first engagement, Earth scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to decipher the enemy's technology. Dr. Addison's team had uncovered a critical weakness, and now, armed with that knowledge, they were ready to turn Earth's industries into weapons. The real fight was about to begin. Dr. Talia Addison's fingers flew across the holographic display in the Earth Orbital Station's main lab. "Look at these readings from Commander Stone's attack," she said, pointing to the data streaming in. "The planet killer's hull showed microscopic fractures where our plasma torpedoes hit. See these stress patterns? They ripple outward like cracks in ice." Captain Delgado leaned closer, her dark eyes scanning the numbers. "So they're not invincible after all." She tapped one particularly promising data point. "And look, the damage compounds when we hit the same spot twice. Better than that." Talia pulled up a 3D model of a mining drill head, its spiral teeth glinting in the lab's harsh light. "We can adapt our deep core drilling tech. These babies can chew through asteroid-grade titanium. With some tweaks, they could bore right into those ships. The rotation speed alone would tear through their armor like butter." In the station's main conference room, Admiral Zhang Wei faced down Earth's gathered political leaders. Their faces showed clear fear, some already suggesting surrender. Empty coffee cups littered the table between them. "With all due respect," President Chen said, wiping sweat from his brow, "they could destroy us at any moment. We've seen what happened to Mars Colony." Zhang Wei's voice remained steady. "They could, but they haven't, and now we've proven they're vulnerable." She gestured to the footage of Stone's attack playing on the wall screen, the plasma impacts lighting up the darkness of space. "This is just the beginning. We have more tricks up our sleeve." Meanwhile, High Observer Kazakhstal recorded his observations with growing unease, his multiple appendages twitching as he wrote, "The Council dismisses the damage to Vessel 47 as insignificant. Envoy Tarapni calls it a lucky strike by primitive weapons. Yet I notice something in these humans' methodical approach. They are not attacking blindly. They are studying us. Each strike reveals new data, new weaknesses. Their adaptation rate exceeds all previous encounters." In the station's massive construction bay, Captain Delgado directed her crews with fierce determination. They stripped down massive building frames, transforming them into lightweight fighter frames. The screech of metal and spark of welding torches filled the vast space. "Keep those welding lines clean," she shouted over the comm. "These babies need to be combat-ready yesterday. And someone get me those reinforced hull plates from Bay 4. The entire orbital shipyard thrummed with activity. Crews worked round the clock, converting peaceful tools into weapons of war. The air crackled with purpose and determination. Maintenance bots zipped between work crews carrying tools and materials. Admiral Zhang Wei stood in the command center, watching the preparations unfold on dozens of screens. Supply ships docked and launched in an endless dance. She took a deep breath, then opened a channel to all Earth forces. "All units," she said clearly, "commence Operation Survival. Show them what humans are made of." Earth's defenses were no longer just holding the line, they were adapting. Admiral Zhang Wei knew that staying on the defensive was a slow death. The time had come to take the fight to the enemy. Plans were drawn, squadrons were deployed, and Operation Survival was ready to begin. Admiral Zhang Wei stood before a holographic display of Earth's orbital defense grid, her uniform crisp despite the sleepless nights that had left dark circles under her eyes. Commander Stone and Dr. Addison sat at the briefing table, surrounded by tactical readouts and weapon schematics that cast an eerie blue glow across their tired faces. Operation Survival isn't just about defending Earth, Zhang Wei said, her voice steady as she zoomed in on key defensive positions. We're going to hit them where it hurts, their command and control systems. Make them fight our way, not theirs. Dr. Addison pulled up a detailed scan of the Planet Killer's architecture, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Their ships rely on centralized control nodes. Take those out, and they lose coordination. They'll have to fight up close, ship to ship. We've found weak spots in their armor near these nodes. That's where we have the advantage, Stone added, pointing to simulation data that showed human ships running circles around the larger alien vessels. Their AI systems are rigid. They can't handle situations outside their programming. Our pilots can outmaneuver them in close combat. They're too stuck in their ways to adapt. From his observation post, Kazizextal watched humans transforming mining equipment into weapons, construction robots into fighters. Workers welded new armor plates onto civilian ships as engineers rewired industrial lasers for combat. His latest report reflected growing unease. The humans display remarkable ingenuity in weaponizing civilian technology. What we dismissed as primitive tools now threaten our most advanced vessels. Their adaptability defies all previous encounters. On the Council flagship, Envoy Tarapni's mandibles clicked with rage as another damage report arrived, showing multiple breaches in their defensive line. Unacceptable. These primitives dare to scratch our sacred vessels. The Envoy's clawed hand slammed a control panel, cracking its surface. Deploy the reserve fleet. We will crush their resistance with overwhelming force. Let them learn the price of defiance. Space rippled as massive shapes emerged from hyperspace. More planet killers, their dark hulls blocking out the starlight like angry storm clouds. They moved into attack formation, weapons charging with an ominous red glow that lit up the void. Admiral Zhang Wei observed the new arrivals on the tactical display, a slight smile crossing her face as she watched their predictable positioning. They just made this a target-rich environment. Time to show them what humans can do. As Earth's forces mobilized, the Council made its next move. More planet killers emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the stars. They believed their overwhelming force would break humanity's will. They didn't realize they had just created the perfect battlefield for Earth's counterattack. Red warning lights pulsed across the holographic defense grid as the planet killers moved into an attack formation. Their massive silhouettes blocked out entire star clusters, casting ominous shadows across Earth's orbital defenses. Tarapni's face appeared on every screen, his alien features twisted with contempt. This is your final chance. Surrender now, or... The transmission cut off mid-sentence, replaced by clips from old science fiction movies. Heroes in silver spacesuits planted bombs in alien ships. Brave captains gave rousing speeches about humanity's survival. Someone had even snuck in a clip from an ancient movie about cowboys fighting aliens. Jamming successful, reported the communications officer, grinning from ear to ear. Let them chew on that for a while. Commander Stone stood in the modified construction pod with his strike team. The cramped space smelled of fresh welding and sweat, with 12 warriors packed together like sardines. Remember your zero-G training, he told them, checking his gear one last time. These things weren't built for internal defense. They never thought anyone would be crazy enough to try this. The pod's thrusters fired, carrying them toward the largest planet killer. Its hull stretched endlessly above them, dark and forbidding, like a metal sky that went on forever. From his observation post, High Observer Kazextal watched in disbelief. They approached directly, he muttered to himself, recording frantically in his datapad. This is unprecedented. The humans show either remarkable courage or complete madness, perhaps both. Stone's team magnetized their boots against the planet killer's hull. They activated their cutting tools, mining lasers repurposed into breaching equipment. The hull sparked and gave way with a satisfying hiss of escaping air. Inside, defense drones swarmed toward them like angry metal wasps. The machines moved in rigid patterns, their programming unable to adapt to the humans' fluid movements. Stone's team split up, using the ship's support beams for cover, ducking and weaving through the artificial gravity-free environment. "They fight like water," Kazakhstal observed, his multiple eyes widening, flowing around obstacles while our drones move like stones. Such adaptability. Fascinating. Stone led the push through the ship's corridors. His team's zero-G training paid off. They bounced off walls, used momentum to their advantage, and hit the drones from unexpected angles. The rigid AI couldn't cope with their unconventional tactics, often firing at spots where humans had been seconds before. "Central control chamber ahead," Stone whispered into his radio, his heart pounding with anticipation. They breached the final door, finding themselves in a vast room filled with pulsing alien technology. At its center, a massive core hummed with power, bathing everything in an eerie blue glow. Stone raised his plasma rifle, targeting the core. "Admiral," he radioed back to Earth, his voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through his veins. "We have a chance to shut this thing down from the inside. Permission to light this candle?" The battle raged across the void, each moment a brutal contest of fire and steel, but victory would not come from brute force alone. As the fleet held the line, Commander Stone and his team prepared for the riskiest mission yet, boarding a planet killer from the inside. Inside the planet killer's control chamber, Stone's team moved quickly to secure key positions. "Watch those doors," he ordered, keeping his plasma rifle trained on the pulsing core. "And someone check those side vents. I don't want any surprises crawling out of them." Dr. Addison's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Commander, I'm seeing familiar patterns in their code structure. If you can connect our interface device to their main terminal, we might be able to take control. These aliens may be advanced, but they're not very creative with their security." "Copy that." Stone nodded to his tech specialist. "Jensen, hook us up, and make it quick. I don't like how that core is pulsing." Through the observation feeds, High Observer Kazakhstal watched with growing unease. "Most extraordinary," he recorded. "The humans treat our most fearsome weapon as if it were a puzzle to be solved rather than an instrument of destruction. Their casual approach to deadly technology defies all known behavioral patterns." In Earth's orbit, Captain Delgado directed her construction teams with practiced efficiency. "Secure those cargo tethers," she shouted. "Turn them into trip lines and space them wider. We want to catch them off guard." The massive carbon fiber cables normally used for moving building materials now floated like giant spider webs between the stations, nearly invisible against the darkness of space. Council fighters, sleek and deadly, swooped in for attack runs. 3 of them hit the nearly invisible cables at full speed, spinning out of control. 2 more had to break formation to avoid their tumbling squad mates. "That's what you get for flying in straight lines," Delgado muttered with satisfaction. "Maybe next time try looking where you're going." Admiral Zhang Wei's voice resonated across all channels from her flagship. "Martian Defense Squadron, reinforce the lunar perimeter. Earth Fleet, maintain formation Delta. Together we stand. Remember your training. We've prepared for this." Ships from every human settlement in the solar system moved as one. Mining vessels turned warships, their drilling lasers now weapons. Research craft converted to carriers, their sample bays launching fighters. Construction pods transformed into combat vehicles, welding torches replaced with guns. "They adapt everything they touch," Kazakhstal noted in his logs. "They turn tools of peace into weapons of war without hesitation. The Council never predicted this level of flexibility. Each device serves multiple purposes in their hands." Back in the planet killer's core, Jensen's fingers flew across his tablet. "Connection established, Dr. Addison. We're in their systems. Man, their security is like something from a training manual." "Remarkable," Addison's voice came through. "Their AI is powerful, but rigid. It's not designed to handle creative input, like a muscle-bound wrestler who can't dance. Commander, we need to overload the main reactor's safety protocols." Stone directed his team to defensive positions as Jensen worked. Warning lights began flashing throughout the chamber. The core's hum changed to a dangerous whine that made their teeth rattle. "Reactor containment failing," Jensen reported, his fingers still dancing across the screen. "She's going dark. Everyone hold on to something." The massive ship's lights flickered and died. Emergency systems sputtered and failed. The planet killer, pride of the Council's fleet, drifted helplessly in space, its mighty engines silent. "Admiral," Stone radioed, "the target is neutralized. One planet killer down. Though I have to say, for something called a planet killer, it sure went down easy." The impossible had happened. One of the planet killers was now under human control, but there was no time for celebration. The Council was already retaliating, and Earth's forces had only one option: take another, or risk losing everything. Inside the planet killer's control chamber, Stone's team moved quickly to secure key positions. "Watch those doors, and I mean all of them. These Council ships love their hidden passages," he ordered, keeping his plasma rifle trained on the pulsing core. The alien metal beneath their boots hummed with strange energy. Dr. Addison's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Commander, I need you to plug the interface device into any control panel. The AI architecture looks similar to what we've seen in smaller Council ships. Just try not to blow us all up this time," she added with a nervous laugh. Stone pulled out a small black box from his tactical vest and approached the nearest console. "Doing it now, Doc. Talk me through this. And that explosion last time wasn't my fault. The manual was upside down." The device hummed to life as it connected, its lights matching the alien console's glow. Addison's excitement was clear even through the static. "It's working. Their systems are complex but follow basic patterns. We might be able to," she paused. "Yes. Commander, we can override their control systems. They really should update their security once in a while." Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, Captain Delgado watched Council fighters swarm toward the stations. "They think we're defenseless," she muttered, then grabbed her radio. "All crews, activate the modified cargo nets, and now, let's show them what Earth's shipping industry can do." Electromagnetic fields sparked to life between the stations, crackling with blue-white energy. The Council fighters, expecting easy targets, flew right into the trap. Their ships tangled in the energized rigging like flies in a web, spinning helplessly. On her flagship bridge, Admiral Zhang Wei's hands flew across holographic displays. "Luna Squadron, protect those mining platforms. We need that ore. Mars Defense, move to Sector 7. Earth Fleet, maintain Formation Delta. Stay tight, everyone." She watched with pride as human ships moved in perfect sync, miners, traders, and warriors fighting as one. Ships from every human settlement responded to her commands without hesitation, from the smallest mining craft to the largest freighter. From his observation post, Kazakhstal recorded with growing amazement. The humans display unprecedented tactical flexibility. They transform defensive structures into weapons, cargo vessels into warships. Most remarkably, they unite without friction, each group adapting to serve the whole. Their chaos has pattern. Back in the planet killer's core, Stone's team worked quickly. "Doc, we're in their systems. What next? Please say we can make it play music. I always wanted to hack an alien sound system." "Initiating shutdown sequence," Addison replied, ignoring his joke. 3, 2, 1. The massive core's pulsing slowed, then stopped. Emergency lights flickered on as the mighty vessel went dark, now nothing more than an enormous piece of space debris. The silence felt almost deafening. "Admiral," Stone reported, "planet killer disabled, ready to begin salvage operations. And may I suggest we paint it in Earth colors? A nice blue would look great." With one of the enemy's own weapons in their hands, Earth had gained its first true foothold. But a single victory meant nothing in a war this large. As Admiral Zhang Wei gathered her commanders, she issued her next order. "We take them all." Admiral Zhang Wei stood before the holographic display, her uniform crisp despite the sleepless nights that left dark circles under her eyes. The faces of Earth's military leaders and colony representatives floated around her in a ghostly circle of blue light, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. "Operation Thunderbolt," she began, her voice steady as steel, "will target multiple planet killers simultaneously. Thanks to Commander Stone's team, we now understand their weaknesses. Each vessel will face a coordinated assault from both external forces and infiltration teams. We'll hit them where it hurts most." A Mars colony leader raised his hand, his red dust-stained collar visible even through the hologram. "The civilian casualties. How many lives are we risking?" "Too many," Jiang Wei admitted, her shoulders heavy with the weight of command. "But if we do nothing, we risk everyone. The math is brutal, but simple." The Luna base commander spoke up, her face tight with concern, fingers nervously tapping her desk. "Using their weapons against them, aren't we becoming what we're fighting against?" "We're fighting for survival," Jiang Wei countered, eyes blazing. "The Council gave us no choice. They made that decision when they targeted our colonies." In his observation pod, High Observer Kez Extal recorded frantically, his appendages flying over multiple data surfaces. The humans display unprecedented unity in crisis. Their strategic adaptation surpasses all historical precedents. Council member Tarapni has ordered reinforcements from the Outer Rim, but I fear this may only strengthen human resolve. Their determination grows with each challenge. Commander Stone found Captain Delgado in the station's observation deck, staring at the massive planet killers hanging in orbit like dark stars. "Those ships we're sending up," Delgado said softly, pressing her palm against the cold viewport. "Most were hauling cargo last week. Now we're asking them to face those monsters. Some still have company logos painted on their hulls." Stone placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. "We'll protect as many as we can. That's all anyone can promise. Even one ship saved is worth fighting for." "I've got construction crews volunteering for the assault teams," she continued, shaking her head in disbelief. "Miners, engineers, ordinary people willing to risk everything. They're showing up with their own tools, asking where to sign up." "That's what makes us different from the Council," Stone replied, a hint of pride in his voice. "We fight together, all of us, from admirals to dock workers. We're all in this fight." The war room erupted in activity as final authorizations came through, screens flashing with green confirmation lights. Jiang Wei's voice rang out across all channels. "Operation Thunderbolt is go. All ships, launch on my mark. Show them what humanity can do." Across Earth and Mars, vessels of every size and description lifted off in a coordinated dance of fire and light. Retrofitted mining ships, armed passenger liners, and proper warships formed up in attack formations, their crews a mix of military personnel and civilian volunteers. Some ships still bore the scars of hasty modifications, weapon mounts welded onto hulls never designed for combat. The massive fleet accelerated toward the waiting planet killers, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space, a testament to humanity's refusal to go quietly into the night. As the battle reached a fever pitch, the fate of the war hinged on one question: could humanity truly turn the enemy's greatest weapons against them? Commander Stone and his teams launched their next assault, knowing that failure meant total annihilation. From the bridge of the UEDF Dauntless, Admiral Jiang Wei watched the battle unfold like a deadly dance. Smaller human ships darted between the massive planet killers, drawing their fire in precise patterns. The view screens lit up with explosions and weapons fire, casting an eerie glow across the command deck. "Attack pattern Delta," she commanded, her voice firm and clear. "Keep their targeting systems busy. Don't let them lock onto any single target for more than 3 seconds." Frigates swooped and rolled, their engines blazing bright against the darkness of space. Behind them, Delgado's modified engineering vessels slipped through the gaps, their crews ready for boarding actions. The retrofitted civilian ships looked out of place among the warships, but their makeshift armor held strong. "Ma'am," her tactical officer called out, excitement breaking through his professional tone. "3 more teams have breached the outer hulls. They're moving faster than expected. On the Council command ship, High Observer Kazakhstal could no longer contain his concern. He burst into Tarapni's private chamber, breaking all protocol. The guards at the door bristled but didn't stop him. His rank still carried weight. Envoy, you must see this. The humans, they're not just fighting. They're evolving their tactics with each passing moment. Each failure teaches them something new. Tarapni's facial tentacles writhed with anger, twisting into knots of rage. They are insects before our might. They should have broken already. Insects who have already captured one of our greatest weapons. Kazakhstal shot back, his translator struggling to keep up with his agitated speech. We failed to adapt. We assumed they would break, but they've only grown stronger. Each defeat makes them more dangerous. Back in Earth's orbit, Dr. Addison's fingers flew across multiple holographic displays, the blue light reflecting off her determined face. Team 7, redirect to the power coupling on your left. The energy readings suggest a critical junction. If we hit it right, we can shut down their main weapons. Her staff coordinated with dozens of infiltration teams, tracking weak points and routing attack squads to the most vulnerable systems. The room buzzed with activity as analysts called out new discoveries and opportunities. Commander Stone led his team through the cramped corridors of the second planet killer, their boots clanking against the alien metal. "Deploy the sabotage drones," he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The ship shuddered from nearby explosions. Small spherical devices, originally mining probes, scattered from his team's backpacks, humming as they activated. They latched onto weapon systems and began their work, methodically shutting down the massive ship's defenses. Red warning lights flashed through the corridors as systems failed one by one. "Battery sections 3 through 7 are dark," Stone reported, wiping sweat from his brow. "Moving to the central hub. Keep your eyes sharp. They'll be getting desperate now." Admiral Zhang Wei stood tall on her bridge as the battle turned in humanity's favor. The crew worked with renewed energy, sensing victory within reach. She activated the holotransmitter, her image appearing before Tarapni. "Your weapons aren't as unstoppable as you thought," Zhang Wei declared, allowing herself a small smile. "Withdraw your planet killers, or the next ship we capture will be your seat of power. Time to decide if your pride is worth the cost." The tide had turned. For the first time, the Council was afraid, but fear made them desperate, and desperation made them dangerous. As Tarapni prepared her final, terrible counterstrike, Earth's forces braced for the ultimate confrontation. Tarapni's holographic image flickered across the Council command network, her rage visible in her trembling tentacles. "Impossible! These primitives cannot possibly master our supreme weapons. They are barely more than savages playing with tools beyond their grasp." In his private observation chamber, Kazakhstal hunched over streams of intercepted human communications, his third eye twitching with growing disbelief. His eyes widened as he decoded a transmission from Earth's orbital command. PK systems responding to human interface, main reactor stabilized, weapons grid accepting new targeting parameters. He sat back, amazed. They've done it. They've actually done it. These humans are far more resourceful than anyone imagined. The Council's emergency session erupted into chaos. Elder Kamoth slammed his appendage on the table, cracking its ancient surface. "Recall all vessels immediately. We cannot risk losing another. Each planet killer that falls into their hands makes them stronger." "No!" Tarapni's voice cut through the din like a blade. "We must unleash everything we have. Destroy their civilization before they can turn more of our weapons against us. Better to glass their world than admit defeat." At Earth's orbital station, Dr. Addison and Captain Delgado stood before banks of hybrid controls, part human, part alien tech. Their engineering teams had worked around the clock to merge Earth's systems with the captured planet killer, running on coffee and determination. "Power flow is steady," Delgado reported, her hands dancing across the modified interface. "We've bypassed the original command protocols. Those alien engineers never expected anyone to hack their systems with duct tape and old video game controllers." Addison nodded, studying the readings with tired but focused eyes. The fail-safes are complex, but we can remove them. Once we do, PK-01 will be a fortress for Earth, not a threat. It's like solving a puzzle where all the pieces keep trying to kill you. In a quiet corner of the station's medical bay, Commander Stone sat on an examination table, his armor scratched and dented. The faces of those lost under his command haunted him. Jones with her terrible jokes, Martinez who'd just become a father, Wong who sang old Earth songs during missions. Admiral Zhang Wei found him there, her own uniform showing signs of the ongoing battle. Elias, she said softly, using his first name. Every person who followed you into those ships knew the stakes. They volunteered knowing it might be a one-way trip. We lost 17 in the last boarding action, Stone said, his voice rough. Good people, brave people. They trusted me to bring them home. And because of their courage, billions will live. Zhang Wei put a hand on his shoulder. They died ensuring humanity's future. We honor them by finishing what they started. Their names will never be forgotten. On the bridge of PK-01, now staffed by a joint crew of military personnel and engineers, the weapons officer called out, "Main cannon systems online. Targeting computers responding. Those alien targeting systems sure don't like our cheap Earth processors, but we made them play nice." The massive vessel's primary weapons array slowly rotated, its planet-killing firepower turning away from Earth for the first time since its arrival. The crew watched in tense silence as the targeting test began, ready to prove they could defend against their would-be conquerors. Someone whispered, "Let's show them what happens when you pick a fight with Earth." Terrapney had one last move left, a hidden kill switch buried deep in the planet killer's systems. If she couldn't win, she would make sure no one did. But Earth had come too far to fall now. It was a race against time to stop her before she burned everything to ash. Dr. Talia Addison's fingers flew across the holographic display as she dug deeper into PK-01 systems. Her eyes narrowed at strings of alien code scrolling past, the blue glow reflecting off her face. "Admiral, you need to see this right now." Admiral Zhang Wei strode across the makeshift control center they'd established inside the captured planet killer, her boots echoing against the metal floor. "What have you found?" "Hidden programs buried in the core systems." Addison pointed to pulsing red markers in the code, her hand trembling slightly. "Terrapney can trigger these remotely. They're like bombs inside the computer brain. One command and it all goes boom." From his observation post, High Observer Kaz Extal watched the council chambers erupt into chaos. Terrapney's hologram dominated the space, her voice booming through the crystal-lined chamber. "We cannot allow these humans to possess our greatest weapons. They are children playing with fire." Other council members wavered, their tentacles swaying nervously. "Perhaps we should negotiate." "Negotiate?" Terrapney's tentacles writhed with fury. "While they turn our own weapons against us? While they mock everything we stand for?" Back on PK-01, Commander Stone joined the discussion, wiping sweat from his forehead. If these things can wipe out planets, maybe nobody should have them. He looked at Zhang Wei, his face grim. "We could destroy them all. End this arms race before it starts." "And leave Earth defenseless?" Zhang Wei shook her head, her jaw set. "These weapons could ensure peace. Or start an arms race," Addison cut in, spinning in her chair to face them. "Turn the whole galaxy into a powder keg." Kazakhstan's private terminal chirped with an incoming transmission from Terrapney. His heart sank as he decoded her orders. She planned to activate the kill switches, council approval or not. The message carried the weight of centuries of council doctrine. His inner eyelids flickered as he made his decision. Reaching for the communications array with trembling appendages, he typed out a warning to Earth. His ancestors would disapprove, but some things mattered more than tradition. Alarms blared through PK-01's corridors, their wailing bouncing off the walls. Addison's screens filled with cascading failure warnings, bathing the room in red light. "She's triggered it." Some kind of self-destruct sequence. The whole system's going crazy. How long? Zhang Wei demanded, gripping the back of Addison's chair. Minutes, maybe less. If this thing blows this close to Earth. Addison didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Addison's fingers became a blur, racing against time. Lines of code reflected in her glasses as she searched for a way to stop the countdown, muttering under her breath. There has to be an override. Come on. Come on. With seconds remaining, she found it. A back door in the base programming. Got it. Her finger slammed down on the execute command. The alarms fell silent. Status displays shifted from red to green as the countdown froze. The tension in the room deflated like a popped balloon. Addison slumped in her chair, exhausted, running shaky hands through her hair. I can create a patch to block these subroutines permanently. She looked up at Zhang Wei, dark circles under her eyes. But we'll need to manually upload it to each planet killer's core systems. No shortcuts. You mean we have to capture them all? Stone asked, letting out a low whistle. Yes, Addison replied, straightening up with renewed determination. Every single one, and Tarapni won't make it easy. The immediate crisis had been averted, but humanity's fight was far from over. There were still more planet killers to take, more battles to fight, and now they weren't just fighting for Earth's survival. They were fighting to change the balance of power across the stars. Admiral Zhang Wei stood before the fleet-wide broadcast array, her voice carrying across every human settlement from Earth to Mars. Today we prove that humanity won't just survive, we'll reshape our destiny. Every colony, every station, every ship must act as one. We've shown these planet killers can be beaten. Now we take them all. Commander Stone gathered his teams in the launch bay. His muscles ached from previous missions, but his voice remained steady. We hit 3 targets at once. Team Alpha with me, Bravo with Lieutenant Chen, Charlie with Captain Rodriguez. He looked at the mix of soldiers and engineers. Remember your training. Watch each other's backs. In the Council command ship, Kazatextal's appendages moved carefully across control surfaces. He masked his sabotage as routine system maintenance, introducing subtle delays into weapons targeting systems. Each adjustment bought the humans precious seconds. These are more than just machines, Dr. Addison told her science team as they prepared infiltration programs. They're proof that we can adapt, overcome. But we have to be smart about this. No unnecessary risks. Captain Delgado checked her engineer's safety tethers one last time. Zero-G combat isn't what we trained for, she admitted, but neither was turning construction pods into assault craft. We adapt. Tarapni's voice boomed through Council channels. All planet killers commence immediate orbital bombardment. Destroy their civilization before... She paused, noting delays in weapon response times. Her eyes narrowed. Someone is interfering with command protocols. The first energy beams lanced toward Earth. Defense platforms groaned under the assault, shields flickering but holding. Emergency sirens wailed across continents as civilians rushed to shelters. Stone's team accelerated toward their target, watching similar pods streak toward other planet killers. 3 minutes to contact, his pilot announced. Enemy point defense active. Through the pod's viewport, Stone watched partial strikes light up Earth's atmosphere. The planet killers' attacks weren't as coordinated as they should be, thanks to whatever was happening in their command systems. But even scattered hits were devastating. All teams, Zhang Wei's voice crackled through secure channels. You have your targets. Earth's fate rests on this mission. Good hunting. Victory was within reach, but something darker had been uncovered. The Council's warships weren't just machines of destruction. They were prisons, filled with beings forced to serve as living components. The war wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about liberation. Commander Stone's boots magnetized to the metal deck with a dull thunk as his team breached the second planet killer. Red warning lights pulsed through the corridors, casting eerie shadows. The ship's automated defenses screamed in alien languages. Movement ahead, whispered Lieutenant Park through the comm. different from the security drones we've seen before. Stone raised his fist, halting the squad. Through the flickering emergency lights, he saw them, hunched figures with cybernetic implants grafted roughly into organic bodies. Their movements were jerky, controlled by the ship's systems. "Dr. Addison, are you seeing this?" Stone's voice was tight. "Affirmative," Talia replied from her command station. "Bioreadings suggest these were sentient beings. The Council appears to have forcibly integrated them into the ship's systems." Across the vessel, Captain Delgado's engineering team used massive construction clamps to tear through a cargo hatch. The screech of metal filled their comms. "We're in," she reported, "finding similar specimens here." "What's the call, Commander?" Stone watched the servitor drones shuffle closer. Their eyes held awareness and pain. "These aren't just machines, they're prisoners." "The Council enslaved them." Talia's voice cracked with emotion. "I'm detecting neural control circuits. I might be able to disable them without harming the organic components." Stone made his decision. "Do it, we're not leaving them like this." Talia's fingers flew across her console. "Initiating override. Now." The servitor drones shuddered. Their implants sparked and went dark. Several collapsed, but others straightened, looking at their own hands in wonder. One of them, a tall crystalline being, approached Stone with halting steps. "Free?" It whispered in broken English, likely pulled from the ship's translation matrix. "Help others?" "Yes," Stone replied firmly. "We'll help free them all." Delgado's voice came through. "My team's made contact with more survivors. They're offering to guide us to critical systems." The crystalline being pointed down a darkened corridor. "Control. There." "This changes everything," Stone said. "Talia, can you expand the override ship-wide?" "Already on it," she replied. "These beings know the internal layouts better than any of our scans. With their help, we can take control much faster." The freed servitors joined Stone's squad, leading them through maintenance tunnels and hidden passages. Delgado's voice crackled through comms again as her team blasted through a sealed doorway. "Now we fight with them, not just against the Council." With each new victory, Earth's forces grew stronger, but as they captured more ships, they also uncovered more horrors. Now, with Tarapni's personal warship entering the battlefield, humanity was faced with one final question. Do they fight for vengeance or for something greater? From PK-01's gleaming command center, Dr. Addison's fingers flew across holographic displays. Admiral Zhang Wei stood behind her, watching mission feeds from multiple boarding operations. "Third squad has breached the reactor core," Addison reported, her voice tight with concentration. "Fourth squad is—" She stopped abruptly as new data flooded her screens. "Admiral, massive energy signature incoming." Through PK-01's advanced sensors, they watched a sleek warship emerge from hyperspace. Its hull bristled with weapons unlike anything they'd seen on other Council vessels. "Tarapni's flagship," Zhang Wei breathed. On the Council command ship, High Observer Kazakhstal felt his inner membranes contract with horror as he witnessed Tarapni's true intentions unfold. The envoy wasn't just planning to destroy Earth's military assets. She was positioning her remaining planet killers to trigger a cascading tectonic reaction that would tear the planet apart from its core. "Dr. Addison," Captain Delgado's voice crackled through the comm. "We've secured the engine room. These thrusters are massive. If we reverse the power flow, it'll fry every system on board." "Do it," Zhang Wei commanded. "But first, Talia, what options do we have against Tarapni's ship?" Addison's hands never stopped moving across the displays. "If we can fully capture one more planet killer, we can catch her in a crossfire. She won't expect an attack from her own weapons." The sound of explosions filled the command channel. "Taking heavy fire." Stone's voice was ragged. "Lost Johnson and Martinez. Peterson's critically wounded." His next words came between harsh breaths. "Torres. Torres didn't make it either." Zhang Wei's face remained composed, but her eyes reflected deep pain as she acknowledged each name. Johnson, Martinez, Peterson, Torres. She paused, letting the weight of their sacrifice settle in the air. Their sacrifice will echo across the stars. The fleet was no longer just fighting for Earth. They were fighting for every species the Council had ever enslaved. And now, with Tiarapni cornered and her power crumbling, they had one last chance to end the war for good. Admiral Zhang Wei's voice rang through every Council channel, her words translated into multiple alien languages. Stop this, or lose everything. We have your weapons, and we know how to use them. Inside captured planet killers, Addison's override codes spread like wildfire. One by one, massive weapon systems went dark. Commander Stone watched in amazement as alien control panels flickered and rebooted under human command. It's working, Delgado shouted over the comm. 3 more ships just went offline. Tiarapni's face contorted with rage as she watched her mighty fleet slip from her grasp. Her claws slammed against her command console, entering emergency detonation codes. I will not let primitives steal our greatest weapons, she snarled. But before she could complete the sequence, Kazakhstan knocked her aside. His tentacles wrapped around the console, yanking out crucial components. Enough, he bellowed. You would destroy everything to maintain control. Tiarapni lunged at him, her sharp claws extended. Traitor, you dare interfere? 2 Council security officers grabbed her arms, pulling her back. Others gathered around, muttering among themselves. They'd never seen a high-ranking envoy lose control like this. She's mad. One whispered. The humans aren't destroying anything. They're just taking control. Back on PK-01, Dr. Addison's screens lit up with confirmation after confirmation. Admiral, we've done it. Every planet killer except Tiarapni's warship is either under our control or completely powered down. Zhang Wei nodded, watching the Council flagship drift alone among its now silent fleet. Send word to all teams, well done. The Council was shattered, its power broken, but war had a way of leaving wounds deeper than the battlefield. As Earth's forces regrouped, new questions arose. Would the galaxy see them as liberators or conquerors? And what came next? Admiral Zhang Wei's voice carried across Earth's defense network. All captured vessels form up. Create an aegis around our home. The massive planet killers moved with surprising grace, their hulls gleaming as they took defensive positions around Earth. From her command post, Zhang Wei watched the tactical display with fierce pride. Commander Stone limped onto the bridge of his captured vessel, his arm wrapped in a quick-seal bandage. We lost good people today, he said softly. Behind him, a group of freed servitor drones worked alongside human crew members, their movements careful but determined. Your liberation gave us hope, one of the drones buzzed in translated speech. We will stand with humanity against those who would destroy rather than unite. Delgado's voice crackled over the comm. My team's ready. These ships are ours now. Meanwhile, aboard the Council flagship, Kazakhstan stood before a hastily assembled tribunal. Council members glared down at him from elevated platforms. You betrayed everything we stand for, a council elder hissed. Kazakhstan raised his head. Number, I saw what you refused to see. Humans don't just survive, they innovate, adapt, and grow. They free those we enslave. While we stagnate behind our weapons, they evolve. Tiarapni's warship hung in space, surrounded by Earth's combined fleet. Her voice boomed across all frequencies. I will die before surrendering to lesser beings. In PK-01's control center, Dr. Addison stared at lines of code streaming across her screen. Admiral, she said, her voice tight, I can use our captured ship's AI to override Tiarapni systems. Take control remotely. She paused. But it feels wrong. Like we're no better than them. Zhang Wei moved to stand beside her. How many lives will we save? Billions, but... Sometimes, Zhang Wei said quietly. Protecting life means crossing lines we'd rather not cross. She squared her shoulders. Do it. Addison's fingers flew across the console. PK-01's advanced AI reached out, probing Tarapni's defenses. Streams of data flowed between the vessels as the captured planet killer's systems began their intrusion. Tarapni's ship shuddered as external controls began to fail. Warning lights flashed across her bridge as system after system fell to the AI assault. Her crew watched in horror as their mighty vessel succumbed to human ingenuity. It was over. The Council had fallen. The war had ended. But now, standing in the ashes of their greatest victory, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet, proving they could build a future worth fighting for. Tarapni's warship loomed against the stars, a dark mass facing the ring of captured planet killers that now protected Earth. Her voice crackled across the command channels, filled with rage. "I will not be humiliated by primitives." Her warship's weapons blazed to life, energy building in its main cannon. But before the blast could fire, PK-01's override protocols sliced through her systems. The weapons powered down, leaving her mighty vessel helpless. "Your weapons are locked," Admiral Zhang Wei announced calmly. "Stand down." Through the view screens, they watched Tarapni's bridge crew step away from their stations, hands raised. Their leader slumped in her command chair, defeated. Kixtal's voice cut through the tension as he addressed all channels, freed by council members who had finally seen reason. "Let history record this moment. We who called ourselves the guardians of order, who wielded planet killers as tools of compliance. We were wrong. Humanity did not bow before gods. They rose to meet us, and in doing so, taught us the meaning of humility." The negotiations that followed lasted days. Representatives from Earth sat across from council delegates, crafting a new future. Dr. Addison presented the core of their proposal. These vessels will be transformed. No longer weapons of terror, but shields for peace, governed by all species together. In the aftermath, Commander Stone stood with Captain Delgado in the memorial garden, reading the names of those lost in the battles. Dr. Addison joined them, placing white flowers beneath the monument. "They gave everything so others could live," Stone said softly. In the new council chambers, Admiral Zhang Wei met Kixtal face to face for the first time. They regarded each other with cautious respect. "Your people have changed everything," Kixtal said. "Perhaps we can build something better together," Zhang Wei replied, extending her hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment's hesitation, Kixtal took it. His final historical log entry flashed across the galactic networks. "They came to end our world, and we answered by remaking theirs. Let this stand forever as the dawn of the Terran Ascension." If you enjoyed the story of Jonathan, I handpicked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.